Hi everybody, I'm back, Grandmaster Levan Aroshidze, and let's talk about chess, interesting ideas, opening systems, novelties, plans, and many other things. So today we're gonna talk about the French defense and review one of my games that was played recently against the Grandmaster Peralta. Uh, I am with white, and well, it was a must-winning game for both of us. We see very popular and famous position for the theory, and now black has several options. For example, he could go for the castle or first get some space on the queen side. However, my opponent decided to take on d4 and just play for this solid setup. Queen d2. White normally tries to castle alongside when it's possible and attack with the pawn storm on the king side. Castle and castle. Still, it's very famous position in the theory, and the main line, main continuation here is a6. Well, it also looks the most natural move. Black intends to exchange at some point on d4, the knight, and then fluently push the pawns on the queen side. Well, this pawn advance and pawn storm on the queen side has not only the one goal, like attack the white king, but also on the later stage, black may exchange his bad bishop from a6. If he will be able to do this in time, probably all kind of positional problems will be solved for him. We know that this c8 French bishop is always a huge headache for black in French. However, maybe this could be discussion of some other videos. My opponent decided to go for a more rare continuation, a little bit surprising idea, to take on d4 with the bishop, and now ignore my bishop and let me to save it. So now if white will go back with the bishop, and it looks like the strongest continuation, we're gonna have a pair of bishops. The dark squared bishop probably will very soon dominate on the dark squares, and still the c8 bishop problem remains at the board. So it looks like what black is doing, but in truth it's not so easy everything, and black has a very tricky plan here. So let me show you what is his plan. For example, if bishop e3, black gonna play rook b8. b5 b4 is coming without a7 a6 move, and it's the key. It's really very important. Now, for example, after king b1, b5, h4, b4, knight d2. Now we see why it was really very important to delay and simply avoid move a7 a6, because now bishop will go to this important square and quickly will be exchanged, saving few tempos. And let's say after rook c8 and some knight maneuvering ideas, black may get even huge advantage and unstoppable attack on the queen side. So it's really very tricky plan, and we shouldn't be relaxed. We have to understand this. Fortunately, I was prepared for this line, and the best move here is not bishop e3 but bishop f2, exactly on this square, and very soon we will see why. Well, rook b8, of course, and we have to do something against this plan, b5 b4 and bishop a6. Probably b5 b4 is not possible to stop, but we can avoid this bishop exchange idea. Bishop b5. This is a really very strong and tricky move too. And now, in order to get achieve some progress on the queen side, black needs to push this bishop away by playing a6. So this is what we want to do. We are provoking this move, and then bishop a6 already will not be possible. But not so quickly. Still, things are quite complicated, because now white has to decide where to place this white squared bishop. Okay, bishop a4 I'm not gonna discuss, of course. Bishop d3 would be the most natural move, but after first look it looks like it's impossible, because now d4 is coming, and then queen takes a2. Bishop e2 is possible, but this is a bad square for the bishop, because normally it's very necessary for the knight to always have under the control this square. For example, b5 threat is b4, and pawn a2 has a problems, and now after king b1 b4, white is simply losing the knight. So it's really very important to keep free open this e2 square for the knight. So what is left? Just bishop going to f1. Okay, it could be some achievement because white avoided this bishop exchange, but at another point we just lost the tempo. So it looks like nothing to choose here, but in truth the main continuation is still bishop d3, and the best move, of course. And now we will analyze, and we will understand why exactly. Well, first of all, that's why we should play bishop f2 and not bishop e3, otherwise now d4 would simply make a double and win the piece. Now if black will play still d4, knight b1, and queen takes a2, it looks like he's winning the pawn, destroyed king's position, but after bishop e4, we're gonna recover this d4 pawn, and also get positional advantage. Knight c5, bishop takes, pawn takes, and queen takes d4. It's very important to evaluate correctly this position. Yes, it looks like that black has a very scary attack here, but in truth it's just an illusion. In a strategic view, black has a lot of problems. Bad bishop still at the board, very ugly pawn construction that still is limiting this bishop, space advantage problems, and I would say that white is dominating in the center, controls open file, queen is very active here. So if black will not find out the way to conclude his attack and get some mating threats or win something, positionally he has a problems. So for example, knight a4, just the b3 and all the squares here under the control. Knight b6, and we could just offer the queen exchange and keep offering the queen exchange, and in the end game, of course, in any kind of end game, white has huge advantage. Or maybe black should try rook b5, but even here knight is well, actually knight is not doing anything, it's just target, and rook is also busy with a defensive job. So in such a situation we cannot talk about the black's attack. For instance, bishop h4, bishop e7 looks like very strong idea, and if necessarily bishop will go even to a3. So there are no serious threats, and strategically white has a clear advantage. Well, also could be played knight b4, but now bishop c4 will save us, and in case of b5 just a3. Take, rook takes, bishop takes, and again we see how huge job is doing this bishop, just protecting this the only weakness, probably only potential weakness in the white's position. And now we can easily attack on the king side, activate the rook via the third rank. Black pawns are separated and weak, they cannot create any problems anymore for our king, and in order of the development also white has a better position. So here also, no doubt, white has an advantage. And finally, maybe knight takes a2, bishop takes a2, queen takes a2, but after queen takes d4, still, well, I believe there is no attack, and we are simply dominating in the center. And my bishop is better than the opponent's one, at least for now. We could play h4, h5, rook going to the third rank. I don't want to say that white is winning, but definitely white has better chances. In the opponent, in the game, my opponent didn't take this pawn, and he quickly answered knight b4. Well, so far we cannot choose anything. King b1 protecting the pawn looks like very logical, and knight c5. knights are quite active, so it's time to exchange one of them. And we arrive to the typical pawn construction for this French line, where the problem of the black bishop still is at the board, remains it, and of course white has clearly better position. So I was quite happy for the results of the opening. Also, we cannot say that knight on b4 is a good piece, because okay, at some point maybe it should be exchanged with the for the d3 bishop. But from another point, what black is doing, he's exchanged all the minor pieces except the bad one. So it just will increase the difference in the power of the knight and the bad bishop, because many of the pawns are fixed, blocked, or just located on the same color than the bishop. So it's a really very passive piece. Well, okay, but if he will not exchange on d3, then it stops b5 before attack. So I felt very comfortable here in the game. h4. Time to create our own threats on the king side, and this is the move that normally is played with white here when the king side attack is starting. Why exactly h4? Because we want to go to h5 and h6. It will create really very weak dark squares around the black king, and also it's good in a strategic view, because after h4, h5, h6 and g6 we are forcing black pawns to go on the white squares and fixing them. So this bishop becomes even more weak, even weaker. Also h4 allows us to use the space for the rook, and at some point, I don't say that necessarily we will play rook h3, but at some point rook could be activated via the third rank. So it's a real little additional advantage of this move h4. And finally, I don't want to pretend that this is the only move, only plan against the black king. Later we could go g4, f5 and many other things. It depends on the position. So bishop d7, h5, and now my opponent, probably he was worried a lot about this h6 move and the weak dark squares, and he decided to avoid these threats against black king, around the black king, and plays f6. However, this even more weakens his pawn construction in a strategic view. Maybe he should continue just simply rook c8, maybe rook h3 now, b5, g4. We did not play h6 yet. It can be done at any moment. But at the same time, maybe we will change our mind and push first f5, then maybe f6. Anyway, position looks quite ugly for black, and I understand that he wanted to change the way game was played, the way the way game was going on, because now maybe rook takes d3 now, or just queen takes, or even pawn takes, whatever. We see very big difference between the knight and the bishop. Okay, maybe here it's possible to play b4, but we have to pay attention to the moves like knight e4 maybe, or even knight takes d5. I don't know. Maybe I choose not very correct order of the moves. Maybe first h6 should be done and then g4. And now, for example, in case of rook takes, knight takes, rook takes, and b4, we could just play knight takes d5 probably. And well, we're gonna win here a lot of pawns. And there's no bishop b5 because we have intermediate check. So just the conclusion is that position is weak and this bishop is still very passive and there's no way to activate it. However, as we mentioned, f6 weakens a lot the pawn construction. h6, g6, pawn takes, and the rook takes. Now, of course, there's no need to continue attack on the king side. This would help only the black to get the target for the pressure. All we need to do is just fix this pawn construction as it is on the white squares, and then use the holes there and probably pressure the backward and weak e6 pawn. White's plan is to play rook e1, bishop e2, bishop g4, increasing pressure over e6 pawn, maybe later knight e2, knight d4. It looks like one-sided game, so again I understand why black tries to really change the case of the play. However, he continues weakening his pawns. And just queen e2. Rook c8 was played in the game, and here I already could take on b5 because black doesn't recover the pawn. Rook d4, take, rook c1, and finally we're gonna win this pawn. And of course technically this is the winning position, but for this moment my opponent already was a little bit suffering because of the lack of the time, and he was entering into the time trouble. And in this situation I did not want it to exchange too many pieces and go even in the end game with an extra pawn, but with a position when he could play his moves quicker. I just decided to keep the tension, keep more pieces at the board to not force the situation, and keep all the threats. Probably this is the most unpleasant way to play against the opponent who is in a time trouble. Not force situation, keeping the pressure and the threats. Do not hurry. Now queen a5 was played in the game anyway. This pawn will fall at some point. And here I almost played just a3 and knight takes b5. Of course, this is technically also winning position. But then at the last moment I discovered that we could use the absence of the black queen, that it went to the corner, and to get even more advantage by force, to win something more important than pawn b5. Well, it could be a little exercise for you. Now you can push a pause to stop the video and try to find it yourself. The best move is queen e5, attacking the rook, planning the checkmate. Rook f7 is not possible because e6 is falling, so rook f8 is the only move. But now queen c7. And again, the only way to stop the checkmate, only normal way, is rook 6 f7, because if he plays with another one, check, and now there's a double threat and we just win the knight. But after this move, e6 pawn will fall because of the double threat again. So of course this is much more important pawn than just b5, because if e6 falls, then d5 will fall too, and probably game is ending. Black played here d4. Well, it's possible to take d4 too, but I decided to go for a most solid and simple plan. Just take here. Well, this is already a clearly winning position for white, and after queen a6 and rook d2, black decided to resign, because probably it makes no sense to continue playing this with 1 minute also at the clock. So okay, I hope you enjoyed the video, studied something more about the French defense. Hope you will like it, and subscribe it, follow my channel, and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.